Welcome back to Cards and Comics, guys. I have another 90s insert set review. And this is kind of an interesting set because I think it's a great looking set, but it's from a time period where just rarity wasn't a big deal. And I'm talking about the 1996 Leaf Studio Masterstrokes. So this set's coming off the heels of a pretty bad 95 effort. So for those who don't know about the 95 Studio set, it looked like a credit card design. And Studio was originally launched with this idea of being like a very high-end photography set. The inserts were like these cards where they put people in old-timey uniforms and did really good photography. And then they morphed into, I don't know how Studio then became credit cards. But it did, and people weren't very happy. Even as a kid, when I saw those cards, I thought they were just strange. Like, I could see that as an insert set. And, like a gold credit card, like a platinum credit card chase where it was numbered would have been kind of cool, but not a whole set. And it was really kind of overdone. And they returned to it, I think, like years down the road. They actually did another credit card looking set, or maybe a couple of them. I kind of lost track because it wasn't my favorite. But in 96, it kind of returned to form, had a more, photography-based set. And then this set, the Masterstroke set, was kind of building on the idea of canvas, right? Kind of a textured card. It looks like, something that was painted. And so the cards themselves, I think, are very nice looking. Now, let's get into some of the numbers here. This set was from, again, 96 Studio. It was 24 packs a box, $1.99 a pack. $1.99 back in 96 was still a little premium. So you got to remember, Upper Deck came in at that $1, then they went to like $1.24. So this is kind of like a mid-tier to mid-high tier. So that's not the most expensive product, but $1.99 in 96 was still a pretty good, cost for the time period. The Masterstrokes were part of an insert set. So there was two insert sets that were numbered. The other one was Hit Parade. And it's odd because they're both numbered to 5,000, but the Masterstrokes have a stated print run of 1 in 96, while the Hit Parade was 1 in 48. So, and the Hit Parade cards looked like records, like a vinyl record falling out of its sleeve, whereas the Masterstrokes cards look sort of like, again, canvas, a painted canvas. So, for one thing, the Hit Parade cards don't really fit the theme, but they're both numbered to 5,000. So what I'm thinking of is, because Baseball Cardpedia doesn't distinguish whether or not one set was hobby only, retail only, it makes me think that the Masterstrokes were in hobby only, whereas the Hit Parades were in both retail and hobby. So it's kind of distributed twice as much. So like it was in both sets. So like they could print 5,000, the Hit Parades were only in one set. So, it was only in hobby or only in retail. So, it had like half the amount of boxes it had to go in compared to the Masterstrokes, which were, I think, in both hobby and retail. That's my thought. How you could have a set number to 5,000 each, but one was twice as rare as the other to get. The answer would be that it was one of the sets was only in half the boxes that were printed. So let's look at the set, and I'll go through sort of my ranking here. So let's talk about player selection. So let's see who's in this set. So card number 1, Tony Gwynn. And here's the first thing I'm going to talk about with the design is, that canvas and how they did the colors, right? They actually matched, for the most part, team colors to the canvas to the player. So you get this really nice multicolored set. And again, there's only 8 players in this set too. That's another thing too, is it's a short set. So from a player selection with only 8 cards, it's really hard to have a wide diversity of players. But the first is Tony Gwynn. So I would say that's a +1. Mike Piazza, again, with a blue canvas. Very nice. I'll show you the back here. So there is that numbering of 5,000 right there. That's what the backs look like. So just a little write up. Nothing really special about the back, honestly. The front, if you pull the card out, you can see there is texture. So you can kind of hear it. So that makes the card, I mean, there was other cards in this time period that had this texture, so it's not the only one, but it's one of the originals. It was one of the first ones, and I think they did it kind of the best. I think this is the first time I really saw the canvas style card done really well and really beautifully, and I think this is definitely kind of shows you like you can do this really nicely. And they didn't just do the effect, they actually have swirls here, and it really looks like a painted surface here. So we got Bagwell, which is okay. Manny Ramirez, again, okay. Obviously, he's a steroid guy, so prices have gone down, but the steroid guys, like Bonds, has kind of gone up in value, so there might be some future here for Manny Ramirez. Cal Ripken, very good. And I love that orange. So I just like the fact that back-to-back you have red, you have orange, so you get a lot of colors, right? So Cal Ripken, definitely a +1 for me. There's Frank Thomas, one of my boys, so that makes me very happy, but obviously you can't do a 90 set without Frank Thomas or Ken Griffey Jr. So that's 2 of the 3 big guys for me. And then into the Greg Maddux. So that's still pretty good. So I'd say 6 of the 8 cards are players I would enjoy collecting, like Tony Gwynn, Mike Piazza. Only the Bagwell and the Manny Ramirez would be cards I wouldn't have enjoyed pulling back in 1996 as a kid. All the rest of these players would have been, very fine. And there's the big guy. I mean, obviously, the Griffey's always the big card in these sets. So there's the back. So from a player selection and a player selection score, it's, to me, I gave it a 7 because it only has 2 of the 3 guys I chase, so it doesn't have a Jeter. It has the Cal Ripken. Now, the Ripken is okay. Definitely a good player. And it has Tony Gwynn, again, a good player. But, it would, to get above a 7, it would need like a Barry Bonds, right? And it doesn't have Bonds or Jeter, so I can't give it really higher than a 7. From a player selection, it's only 8 cards. So I'm only going to give it a 7. I think that is a score for an 8 card set. Still pretty good. But it's above average, obviously, because it has, these 2 cards and a Ripken and a Maddux. So those are all good players from that time period. So when we look at, the next criteria here. So when we go to the next criteria, rarity, right? So we talked about it. So, one of the things with rarity, and the one that's going to be subjective here is, I know people want, I've had some comments about, rarity is going to be tough because you're going to be talking about the rarity of cards made in 1996, comparing it to now, where cards that are 1 in 25 are kind of dime a dozen. There's tons of 101s. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just put it in context. In 1996, a card numbered to 5,000 was, for the most part, on the top tier, like, S tier, A tier, it'd probably be A tier on rarity. It's not the rarest, but it was pretty rare for the time period. So I'm not going to discount the fact these were 1 in 1 in 5,000 or numbered inserts. Majority of cards in 1996 were not numbered, even if they were rare. Also, it's 1 in 96, so took 4 boxes to pull one of these cards. That's fairly rare. I mean, that's even back in those days, you'd have to pay $48 a box. So pulling one of these cards, you're going to spend almost $200 to pull one of these cards in a box. So like that's pretty interesting. So rarity wise, I'm going to give it again a 7. Take into account the year it was made, the fact it's numbered. But again, there were cards numbered lower than that in that time period. And only 8 cards in the set. And the fact that on the secondary market, you can buy this set, as a complete set. And we'll talk value in a minute, but you can buy this as a complete set pretty readily between $40 and $60. So, and they're out there. So again, they're not hard to find. So I'm just looking at it like rarity of the time and rarity now. It's not a set that's hard to find. In studio, I don't think it was that short print of a product. I don't think it was one of those really like, Like other sets I've covered, like Stars and Steel from Topps didn't have a lot of boxes printed. This is not one of those sets. Let's go to design. I mentioned design, some elements I like already. I like the canvas look, the feel of the canvas. It's very unique. It was just starting at that point to be unique. A kind of a new design for cards. The swirl patterns look great. The color matching looks great. So from that perspective, on the design perspective, being it's a one-trick pony, it's got one unique element, which is the canvas effect. Numbering is really more of a rarity issue. It's not part of the design, but they are numbered. So it's above average. I gave it a 7. I think that's as high as a set like this could go, because to get to that upper echelon of design, you're going to have mostly multiple elements. You're going to have this plus die cutting plus something else to really get to that top tier. To me, this is really nice looking cards. This is like, and this is why I talk about a lot with modern cards, is even basic insert sets that don't have a lot of refractor, die cut, chrome, things that are obviously premium looking. You can do a lot with just one technology like this kind of canvas style printing. You can do a lot with it. You can do a lot with foil. You can do a lot with these if you just design the card well. And these cards are well designed. They look really nice. And when you have them in your hand, you kind of look at them, they are cards that you would just want to have. And again, I think a lot of people that are player collectors, this is one of those cheaper insert sets that is kind of hard to get. It's not, I mentioned that they're not super rare, but it's like, they're not dime a dozen either. They are, numbered. So I've seen a lot of people have these in their set. PSA 10s, in their player collector sets. So they are desired. So from that perspective, I think just they're so clean looking, such a clean design, well executed. I gave it a 7. Let's go into value. Like, what's these cards bringing on the secondary market? I mentioned back in '96, it would have taken $200. You'd have to open up 4 boxes. Boxes are about $50 a piece, and to get one of these cards. Well, unfortunately, over time, the prices aren't really, gone up much. I would say that a PSA 10 Griffey just sold for $125, which, not too bad. I think you can get a box of Studio probably $60 to $80. So, trying to pull one is probably just go out and buy one. I would say right now, the value of opening a box isn't worth what these cards are in the secondary market. So a BGS 9.5 sold for $50, a PSA 9 sold between $30 and $50. Raw, and these are all Griffey prices, and raw $10 to $15 for the Griffey. And just like everything else from this, that you can buy, obviously you can get a card really cheap. I've seen these sell between $5 and $10 as well, but on average 10 to 15 is pretty close to the raw average. And then if you want a PSA 9, you can get one between $30 and $50 pretty easily. If you want to hold out for that PSA 10, there's some guys with them at $700 on eBay, but like $100 to $150, you're going to get probably a PSA 10. So value wise, I gave it a 4. It's not, to me, a set that you see a tons of value. You can, like I said, the best thing to do in this set is just buy the full complete set for $40 to $50. You'll get the Griffey, the Thomas, the Ripken, the Maddox, and the full set. That's a smarter thing to do than probably even buying the Griffey for $10 or $15. In my opinion, like spend a little bit more and you get the whole set. But the value really isn't there. It's not an expensive product or an expensive card to find and to buy. But again, there's different types of collectors. For collectors out there who don't want to spend a lot of money but have a nice looking Griffey card, this is perfect for that collector. So again, I'm just talking about like how expensive the card is in terms of value. This is a very nice, cheaper Griffey insert from the 90s. If you have a budget, you want to like stick to that, $20 or below type of card, this is the guy for you. It looks amazing. For the value. Now, let's talk about like the bonus category, right? I talked about like impact. How did this set have any sort of like relevancy? On that perspective, again, it's really hard for me to give it, any sort of bonuses other than it's an early, use of canvas. And it's a comeback of some sort for this brand from the disaster of the 95 set. So from that perspective, I gave it a 1. It has some unique, that canvas, it's numbered, but it wasn't breaking any ground. There was no ground being broke here, other than just the fact that it's a nice looking product, using a technology that was fairly new to the market, and it was a comeback from a brand that had really stumbled the year before. So I gave it a 1. So overall, when I added up, I got 21, 25, 26 points is what I gave this set. So, I think overall, when I start ranking all these sets and put them in order, this is definitely a little above average. This is kind of how I look at it. It's not going, it's not, I'll have some sets, coming up pretty soon that are going to be, that upper tier kind of sets. And though, and they're clearly different. And so when you look back at a set like this, when you say clean, well designed, pretty good player selection, great, above average. And that's sort of how I view it. And I think that is what the set is. But again, if you are a value collector, this is the set for you. If you want to save below $20 and get some really nice looking cards at Griffey and Thomas and Ripken, this is a great set for that. So there it is, guys. Let me know your opinion of these cards. Let me know if you think the rating was, was on, or would you have rated it? And I'll talk to you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.